Hey guys, it's Maymay, and today I'm showing you how to make these pop-out easel cards, and I want to show you what they look like. This one has this cross, and you can see he's suspended in the middle with a little fishing line. He's really fun. I'm going to make that one for you. And also this one, but we're going to do this one a little bit different. These guys are suspended just kind of in air, and once you learn how to do this one, you can do that. But I'm going to show you how to do this with acetate in case you're not real comfortable with the suspending of the little pieces. So we're going to start with this guy first. Now, when you're getting your supplies together for this card, there's several things you want to look at, okay? The first thing is your card base. Today's card base is going to be this one. This is a standard A2 size card base. All right, so that's what this one is. The next thing you want to look at is what is going to be the trim piece on the inside, the matte piece, okay? I'm going to use this, nope. I'm going to use this piece as my matte piece on the inside. So this cream piece will be this one, okay? I'm also going to use this color for my frame at the top, and I have some more of this cut, but it'll be that color for my frame, okay? Then we need our sentiment. I'm going to be stamping my sentiment and my image for the middle here out of this cream, and then this edge will be this. Now you can play and change this up any way you want to. You can just get a paper pack that has coordinating colors and just pull paper from it and see what you get, but this is kind of how I'm going to do it. So the first thing we want to do is prep our card base. So we'll move all these other pieces out of the way and get our card base prepped. Now this is my card base. I'm going to score it on the back side. You know I like to push my score line down for my fold. So this is the 11-inch side, and what we're going to do first, I just want to make this make sense to you. I'm going to score this in half at 5.5. This becomes an A2 size card base when we do that. But in order to get that fold for the easel, we need to split this front in half. So we're going to score this one at 2 3/4. So I want to go back now and tell you this. Here's your score marks, 2 3/4. 5.5, but I wanted you to see that as an entire card base, because if you're making an easel card, you can do the same thing on any card base that you're making. Just score that front in half, and you can do that pop up with the easel. So now this guy is ready for die cutting. This paper is printed, so I'm going to go ahead and fold it so I can see where all of my fold lines are, so I can make out where I'm laying things. So now I can see those lines, and this is the front of my card. Now, there's a couple things you need to look at. One is you need to find your frame that's going to be the largest frame on your card. So this one is going to be my largest. It's the only one that will fit top to bottom there. I'm going to zoom you guys in on that. So it will fit top to bottom. Okay, so you want to make sure you use the right one for the frame. Now the next thing you want to do is pick one of your nesting dies. That's what you're going to use, that is nesting dies. And you want to skip the one in the middle, okay? You can't use the one right after it, because if you do, you'll get too skinny of a frame. So you got this die, there would be one in the middle, we skipped it, and I went to the next one. Now you just want to make sure whatever image you put in here is going to fit. So you can take a stamp set. This one is not going to fit, but you can take a stamp set and lay it there and see, nope, that cross is not going to fit, so we'll try a different image and see what we can get. So I'm going to try this cross image, and it fits, so I know I can get that one suspended in the middle. So that's the way I do it. I just lay my stamps there so I can see. Now, I'm going to remove this guy for a minute. You're going to need some low-tack tape. You could use some Post-it tape, any kind of tape you use for your card making, even washi. I just happen to have this tape handy, so I'm going to use it. Now, you want to stick this down to a surface and get some of that sticky off before you use it, because it's really sticky, okay? So I'm going to line this up in the middle. And the first cut we're going to make is going to be all the way through, okay? We're going to cut this shape completely out, and you want to just kind of get that in the middle where you want it. Now, I'm going to line this piece of blue tape up with that score line in the middle so I can see where that is. Doesn't really matter on this part as much as it does on the next part. So we're going to cut this piece completely out. This is a C plate that I use for cutting, and I want to show you. I'm going to place this down and just go ahead and let that tape stick it into place, and then I know it's not going anywhere. Now I've got the cuddle bug. I have an A and a B plate right here, and then my C plate. So I'm going to lift this B up, sit that down, and then put my B plate on top. It doesn't matter as long as your sandwich is A, B, and C for cutting, okay? Now I'm going to run this through, and we're cutting that one out completely at this point. I know it doesn't seem right, but we are. Okay, so we've cut that little guy out. Let's move this out of the way for a few minutes. We're going to need it several times, so I'm just going to leave it close. All right, so now then we can take this tape away. just like so. Now, I'm going to leave this in here just like this, okay? I'm going to leave that die in place. I'm going to take the next size up and lay around it now. The reason I'm doing these separate is because I do not want to cut all the way through on the big one. I only want to cut the top of the big one. So I'm going to leave these guys in place just like they are. I'm going to tape them together at that same center mark because that'll tell me where to run my plate through. That'll make sense in just a second. And I also want to tape this frame together in 2 more spots. I want to tape it together at the bottom, just the frame, okay? I'm not worried about the paper. And I'm going to tape it at the top. This will help you when we get to the next step. Trust me. You'll be glad you did this step while you had it all together. All right. Now, I'm going to take a B plate, or a C, whichever. As long as your sandwich is A, B, and C. I'm going to line it up on that score line right there. Not going to the bottom, but to the top of the card. All right. So I'm going to pick this guy up, holding it all together. Bring the cuddle bug back over. Now running that through with that plate resting right on that score line in the middle of my card, I'm just going to run that through. I only want to cut that top section, remember. So I'm just running that through, and I can let it go all the way through because I don't have a plate at the bottom to complete the cutting. I do not want you to take this frame apart. This is the trick. This frame needs to stay together for our next step. So you want to pull the paper away from the tape, not the frame away from each other. This is one of those videos you need to watch all the way to the end before you try to keep up with me, I think. This is one of those that definitely makes sense as we get going. All right, so this is correct. Let me show you why. When you fold this up, you now have your pop-up frame. See how we did that? So there's the pop-up frame. But I want a coordinating color to lay on this frame to make it really pop. That is why I kept these taped together. I'm going to remove this piece of paper in the middle, which, by the way, if you are so inclined, you can save this piece to use for your pop-up piece on the page, and we might use it in some way, so I'm going to set that aside because it's really cute. All right, now then, back to the next piece to cut. This is what I want to be my frame, okay, to really pop on the front of that card. So I'm going to place this down onto there. See what leaving this together really helps? Now I don't have to worry about if it's going to match or not. Then I'll put my other plate on top. So we have an A, B, and a C sandwich. Bring the cuddle bug back and run this guy through. You're cutting this out completely because you want this whole frame cut loose. So here we go. We can remove our plates. And at this point, we can remove our frame. Now you're through with worrying about keeping these guys together. You could totally take this apart. I'm just going to pull this out and show you what I'm talking about. So there's our frame. Okay, but these, we don't have to keep these together anymore. We've done all of the keeping together work that we need to do. Now, don't get rid of this guy. He's totally usable, so I'm just going to put him aside in case we want him. This one, if you centered him correctly, that would be usable too. I did not center him perfectly, so I'm not going to keep that. Okay, so now you're like, oh my gosh, I'm totally confused. Don't be confused because we're going to use this frame to help hide our fishing line and to make that pop. But because of the way we did this, our frame fits perfectly. See that? I'll flip it around and that frame fits perfectly. So we've got our card base, we've got our frame. Now we need to make our sentiment for here and our piece from the middle. So now we get to do some stamping. So I'm going to move these guys aside. I'm going to bring this cream colored paper over because that's what I want to do my stamping on. And I'm going to get that cross. I'm going to start with it. I'm going to use some VersaFine. You could use any color here on this cream. You could use a brown if it matched better, or a dark gray. That would be pretty too. And this is a scrap paper, so it's a little warped on one end. I'm going to use this end for what I need. Just going to just stamp this guy out. So that's going to be my focal point in the middle, okay? So we've got that done. Now let's stamp our sentiment while we're here. Let's see what we're going to put on there. So this is the piece that I cut from that center of this one, okay? And I really like it. I think I'm going to use this instead of my original plan to be my pop-up piece here. But that means I need to cut a smaller one for here for my sentiment to go on. So what I'm going to do is stamp my sentiment here and then cut it with that other die. Once again, we're going to run this through and cut this out. And then our sentiment will be ready to be our stopper for our easel card. And I'm not getting rid of that tape. I'm going to use it for the next portion too. So look how pretty that turned out. I love that. All right, so we've got the stopper ready. Let's finish this cross. We're going to do two things. One, I'm going to fussy cut this cross. Now, of course, you can do this with, you know, if you have a brother scanning cut like I do, you can use that. But I'm just going to use my scissors. And this cross has a very frilly edge. And I don't want to cut in all of those little edges. So I'm just going to kind of come around it and cut fairly close. And it will be just fine. It'll look like I fussy cut it, even though I just got really close to all those little frilly, lacy edges. Now, I told you I was going to do two things with this cross. I am also going to cut a backer for this cross. And here's what I'm going to do. I'm just going to lay this down here and just trace it with a pencil just real lightly because I can't glue it down yet. I got to leave it separate from that backer piece because this is what's going to be the piece that sandwiches our cross down to our fishing line. This doesn't have to be perfect. You just want a fairly decent outline so you can see what you're doing. Okay, so I know I want to trim around this shape a little bit larger than that. So this is where you're going to do kind of like leaving an outline or a border. You don't have to leave an outline. You could just cut this exact as long as you can sandwich it around that fishing line, but I think this looks really pretty to have that little border kind of popping around it. So now this card is ready to assemble, and you're probably so confused at this point, but I would suggest go back and watch a couple times until you get comfortable with it, and then you can make these like crazy. Now I keep saying fishing line, but this is actually some clear mono cord, which is like for jewelry making, but you can certainly just dig into your husband's tackle box and use some fishing line. And I'm going to cut a piece bigger than I need. The reason why, you don't want to fiddle with this. You can trim it away, but you don't want to try to fiddle with this clear wire, which is already impossible for you to see. Okay. This is some sticky tape. I have found this to be the easiest way to do this. I take a little piece of sticky tape, and at the very top of the die cut hole in the middle, I put a piece of tape. See that there? I'm going to do the same at the bottom. At the very bottom, closest to that little die cut hole, put a piece of tape. That helps. It makes this so much easier. Then peel this little protector piece off. Just like so. Now, let's put our fishing line into place. I'm going to keep calling it fishing line. Sorry, it's my habit. So I'm just going to stretch it taut across the middle and then lay it into that sticky tape. And that will hold it there for me. Okay, see that? Now to make it even more sturdy, I'm going to go ahead and glue my frame down because I'm done with that, okay? So I'm going to just use some art glitter glue. That's what I'm going to use. You could use sticky tape. It wouldn't matter. Then this frame just goes right into place on top of the other piece there. And you can actually just line it up using that center hole, and it should work out just fine. Just stick that guy into place. And then you want to make sure you're not gluing it shut. So lift it up so you can see what you're doing there. So now we have our frame glued into place. We have our clear line or fishing line. You see it better here in the middle. And now we can put our cross on. But before I do that, I'm going to trim these pieces of this clear line away. Like I told you, you can just trim it right at the edge of that frame. And I promise you, using a bigger piece is so much easier than trying to use the perfect length piece, okay? Now, I told you you had to have these two pieces, and here's why. We're going to go behind this wire and on top of the wire, okay? So here's what I like to do. Again, sticky tape makes this so easy. I'm going to run some sticky tape down the center of this cross piece. So I put a little sticky tape in the center of this cross, and I'm going to run it underneath this fishing line and lay it down and just let it be in the middle with T's, in the middle there, okay? And then this guy is going to get glued on. This card seems difficult, but if you break it down in your brain and just kind of take it one piece at a time, you will get there. Look at that. Isn't that pretty now? Now we have this suspended cross in the middle. Pretty, huh? Okay, now we need to work on our stopper so that that will be in the air like that. So, all right, I have a piece I want to put in here. Now, originally, I was going to use this blue color as my backer, but since I'm using this for my sentiment, I've changed them. I'm going to use this gray for my backer, just like this. So just glue this guy in place. You really don't have to have this piece. I just think it looks pretty whenever the cross is kind of laying flat. It kind of helps it to pop. So I'm just going to put this piece here, like so. Now for our sentiment. I'm going to glue this piece directly on to the blue, to the trim piece. So I'll just do this and I'm going to center it. I'm going to pick it up so I can look at it, make sure I get it centered. Just like that. Now in order for this to become a stopper, it has to be lifted up. So we need some foam tape on the back. So stick some foam tape here, peel off that backer. Now lift your card up, decide where you want it to stand, and put your backer piece into that place, okay? So I'm going to put mine about right here. And then I got to show you one more trick because you'll be so disappointed. You'll do all this work and then you're going to try to put this into place and it may not stay. See how that's popping out? Let me show you why. We need to lay the card down, okay? We need to take our bone folder and we need to crease this fold really well. This is the one that pushes it down, okay? So crease that really well. Now we lift it back up and it will lock right into place and stay for you. So there's that card made. Isn't that pretty? And look how you can see through the back and the cross is just suspended and I just love it. I think this is a super easy and super pretty card to make. And when you send this to somebody, they can sit this on their desk or their windowsill or their work surface and just look at this all the time. Let's make the bigger one and let's use acetate. For this one, I've decided to use one of my friend Christopher Allen or Brutus Monroe's card bases. He does 6x6 white card bases and I love them, so we're just going to use that to save us some time. Now we do have to make an extra score in this one because we need a score in the middle, so I'm just going to put that in my scoreboard and make that score. Now remember, this is a 6x6 card, so this score mark changes because we're going to score it in half on the front. So this one now gets scored. Let me flip this over so I'm scoring them directly the same way. So this one was scored forward. I want to score this one forward at 3 inches. The reason for this again is because we want to score the front of our card in half. For this card, I'm using my circles dies. So I'm just going to pull those out. And I pulled them all out, but I'm not going to need them all. I want to see which one I can use. Looks like I can use the biggest one. That'll be perfect. So that's going to be the outside of our frame. Now, one thing I'm going to do a little different on this card is I'm going to lift it up higher. So I'm not centering this piece anymore, okay? Now I'm actually lifting it up so the frame will sit up way high. The next thing I want to do, remember how I told you we want to skip one between? I'm going to lay these here and show you that. We're going to skip one because if we don't, our frame is too thin, okay? So I'm just going to come in here to the middle and pick this guy up and give myself this size frame. Again, I'm not going to use him just yet. I'm going to start with him. Then I'm going to cut this out completely in the Cuttlebug. Now, as you can see, I've cut him out all the way. So I'm going to peel this tape away. I'm going to peel this piece away, but I'm not going to lift my circle up, remember? I'm going to leave him be for now. He won't hurt a thing sitting there. We're just going to let him stay just like that. Now I'm going to take my bigger circle die that goes around him, and I'm going to eyeball center where he goes. Something like that, and I'm going to tape these guys together at that middle score line. That's where we're going to start taping. That way I know where to put my cut plate to. Now because I don't want this frame to come apart, I'm going to tape them together in other places too. So I'm just recycling some of that tape I used earlier. I'm just going to tape them together at the top and the bottom. And hopefully he'll stay together nice and tight. Now, I'm going to run this through the machine, but this time we're going to do it different, remember. Here's the sandwich. I'm going to lay 2 plates down, okay? Lay this guy on top, and I only want to cut the top portion. So where that score line is, I'm going to line this piece up to that score line, and I'm going to run that through the Cuttlebug. Okay, so I can take these dies away, but remember, we want to keep them together because we've got to cut our frame. So I'm just going to lift this up. Lift this up. It's a little bit of ginger work, but you can do it. Lift this tape all up. Then I'm just going to pull my frames away. And this will keep them together for me. Good deal. Okay, this centerpiece I don't need. I'll pull it out. And now we have our frame, so we can cut the piece to go on top of here. I'm going to do that in this candle paper because I'm doing a birthday card this time. So I'm just going to lay this down on top of this candle paper, just like so, and cut him out completely. Now for this next part, I want to have a piece of paper trimmed around that circle, okay? Now there's probably a better way to do this than I have come up with. And if there is, leave it in the comments below. I will probably wake up one night and go, oh, that's how to do it. But here's what I've come up with. I'm going to take that biggest die and I'm laying it on that circle with the cut blade facing up so that I can feel where it's going to cut here. I'm going to take a piece of tape and just tape this into place. Just one side is plenty. Then I'm going to take my paper with the side I want showing facing down, and I'm just going to line it up on the front of this card front. Okay. With my fingers, I'm going to burnish that little cut blade right around. And when you do this, you kind of give yourself a trace mark, which you probably cannot see, but it is there. Okay. Now I'm going to take this die off, move my card front aside, pull this die back over, and I'm just going to lay it into that trace mark. And it actually kind of just goes right into that trace mark when you do it. So just do like this, and then do like this. Now there's probably a better way. You guys tell me in the comments. That's just how I did it. And the reason I did it that way is because actually that was kind of hindsight for me. Like I'd gotten through with the card and then I went, wait a minute, I would like to cover this white card's base. When I did the first card I made, I wanted to cover it, and that's how I kind of came up to do it. So I want to show you what I do. There's always a way to get something done, right? What do they say about that? You can always find some way to do something. So I'm going to run this through. We need our cuttle bug one more time. Here's our acetate. I'm going to lay it down. I'm going to use that same die, that biggest die, and just cut out a circle. You could step down one size, but I'm just using the same one. It'll be fine because it's going to sandwich and you won't even see it. So I'm going to cut one acetate circle with the biggest die. Now I've done some stamping and I need to do some fussy cutting. I went ahead and cut 2 of these cakes. The reason is we still want to sandwich this in our acetate because you know you can't hide adhesive. So we want to make sure we have something to hide this guy in the background. Now you might be thinking, but if these images are not perfect mirrored images, you're not going to be able to do that. You're right. So what you do is you will cut both of them out, but only one of them will get adhered facing forward. The other will just be a backer piece. And I'll show you what I mean. Now, if they're perfectly symmetrical images, you can turn them around where they show both ways. So I have 2 cakes cut and I have my happy birthday sentiment cut. And now we can start assembling our card. So this is the front of our card. I'm going to take that first piece, or that piece that we cut to go around the edge, and put it down first. And see how well that does? If you line it up that way, it does work. So I'm going to put that piece down. Make sure you clear that circle so it can stand up. Just like that. Now then, and we'll do a little test. So I've got my circle all cleared, okay? And we'll worry about that bend after the paper gets good and dry. Now I want to stick my acetate down here because it's going to get sandwiched in that spot. Now I think my acetate's a little tiny big. I probably should have used that one size smaller, but I'm just going to trim it a tiny bit with my scissors. It won't show. So I've trimmed that up just a little bit and that'll fit just fine. And I'm going to use sticky tape. You could use any adhesive that works for your acetate, whatever you use, but I think the sticky tape works real well with it. Place our acetate down. Just like that. And now we can add some more sticky tape to the front and put our frame on. Peeling these backers off. Now remember, you're not having to put the fishing line in, so you can go ahead and assemble all this before you put your image on. Your image can come last. So now for our frame. Now I originally decided I wanted those candles, but I really like this side better, so I'm going to flip it around and use that side instead of the candles. I just think it's super cute. So I'm just going to put that down like that. All right, so now I'm going to fold on those score lines, and you can see our card is coming together, and we have our little window there. See that little scratch? I'm not stressing about it because watch this. We're fixing to put down our birthday cake image, and it's going to cover that little spot anyway because I want my birthday cake image to kind of be suspended in the top there. So I'm going to put some sticky tape on the back of it and then stick it into place. I want it suspended. I don't want it like at the bottom. You could put it at the bottom like it was sitting on there, but I want it like actually suspended. And I'm going to put a little bit of glue down at the bottom just to hold that little piece into place. Okay, now we're going to flip the card over. And see how we can see all the ugly stuff on the back side? We're going to hide that. If your image is symmetrical, you can just put the other cake down just like this, and mine seems to be working just fine. Or you can just flip this over and just sandwich that image in so that you don't see all the workings on the inside. It won't matter because you really won't see this part of the card when it's standing. Now for the inside, I'm going to glue a piece down here. And it's going to be this green polka dot, which is really cute. Then again, we just need to decide where we want it to stand. And I'm thinking somewhere like this. I kind of want this to be a little bit lower. So this little piece is going to be our stopper. So I'm going to put him down, and we just need to put some foam tape on the back. You could mat him if you want to, but I think since he's already white on this green, I'm just going to leave him like he is. He doesn't really need another piece, but you could add a piece. And let's just see. We'll do a little test run. Something like that works. Now, I'm going to take my stamp set and do a little candle to stick up here. I have that on the stamp set. So I'm going to stamp a candle, fussy cut it, and stick it there real quick. So now, as you can see, I colored the little cake, and he's standing in the acetate. He looks super cute. And you can do all kinds of other embellishments to your cards. You could put ribbon on or what have you. But I think this is a super cute way to do it, too, if you didn't want to do the fishing line. When you lay this one down, it looks like this, so it goes in the middle like that. How cute, huh? All right, so you got this card, and you also have the one we did earlier. And you also have the fishing line option, which I think is just as pretty. I love how that looks with the fishing line. So I hope you guys enjoyed this. And I'll have pictures of these as well as the original cards that I did that I took to class and taught how to do in class. I'll have those as well so you can see them. So there you go, guys. If you guys make cards like this or recreate any sort of card that I've ever done, or even something that's your own design, please share it with us on our Facebook group, which is called Maymay Made It, and so did I. We love to see inspiration, and I know you guys make amazing creations as well. So head over there, join the group, and share your goodies. All right, guys, until Friday, talk to you soon. Bye-bye.